Hello, this is Moody Alshehaby, and this is our third video of our Adobe After Effect course from scratch. In our last video, we've talked about compositions, timeline, how to make a new solid, new light, new camera, null object, and text layer. Also, we've talked about our basic animation from the transform option, anchor point, position, scale, rotate, and opacity. As well as we've talked about the shortcuts. We went through the keyframes, how to easy ease them, how to add motion blur to your animation, how to control the speed of your animation, either by the distance between your keyframes or by the graph editor. Also, we've got to know that we have more animation options with the 3D layers, with the camera layers, as well as with shapes and paths. In our video today, we will be practicing 3 exercises to master the keyframes and the animation. Our first exercise starts at the time shown in the screen. We will be using the scale option and we will be creating multiple keyframes using the same option. Our second exercise starts at the time shown in the screen now. We will convert our layer to a 3D layer and we will be using the X rotation option. Then our third video starts at the time shown in the screen now. We will also convert our layer to a 3D layer, and this time we will use the Y rotation option, as well as we will create a shape and add a trim path and use the start animation option. Without any further ado, let's start our first exercise. Control I to import my files. I need my logo first. Like we mentioned last video, we can import an open layer file AI or PSD along with some other files. Otherwise, the program will just merge your open file into a single layer file. You have to import it separately like I did now. Another Control I to import the rest of my file. This is our preview video. Double click on it to show it in the preview panel. Hit the space bar to play it. Now double click on the composition to add it to the timeline. I've got 4 layers here. My logo, first tagline, then second tagline, and then the background. I will add my audio file to my timeline just like any other file. Hold it and drag it in there. You can control when you want the music to start from just moving it with your direct selection tool. Here my composition is 9 seconds. I don't need all that, I will just trim it down to 4 seconds. I want to see more frames other than seconds, because I will be working more today on frames and not seconds. I will zoom in. I'm gonna start with the logo. We want to get this logo from outside the screen to the inside the screen, but I won't be using the position option. I will use the scale option. Press S to bring up the scale option. Make sure your timeline indicator is at the beginning. Now we're gonna start scaling our option, but first, watch where the anchor point is. It's placed on a part of the logo. That means no matter how big you're gonna scale it up, the logo won't be outside the screen, and you'll still be seeing that orange color in the screen. To make it clear, let's try it. I will start my scaling. I will scale it up even more, and you still see that orange color in your screen. I will return back now to 100%. Now press on Y and take your anchor point tool and just move that anchor point a little bit to the left. Place it on an empty area away from your logo. Now try to scale it up again. And now you can see the colors are getting out of the screen. Now the entire logo is outside of the screen. Now you can click on your stopwatch to create your keyframe at this position. Since we have frames view now and not seconds view, once you hold your timeline indicator and try to move it, you can see it snaps on every frame. That would help you to count how many frames you need. I will move it about 10 frames and add my second keyframe on 100%. activate your motion blur icon on your layer, as well as activate the icon itself on the top. That will give your logo a blurry cool look as it moves. Also, select your keyframes, right-click and easy ease them. Also go to the graph editor. You have your start and your finish animation points here. I will slow down the start only. I want to lay my timeline indicator on the last keyframe, so I will go to that tiny arrow in here and just click on it. We've talked about all those moves in our previous video. As I have frequency on my audio, I want my logo to pop in and out a few times with the frequency before it lays finally on 100% scale. So how we do that? I will move 3 frames and scale my logo up to create another keyframe. 2 frames and set it on 100%. 3 frames more, scale it up again about 160. 2 more frames and set it on 100%. 3 more frames and scale it up again up to 150. 2 more frames and set it on 100% again. 3 more frames and scale it up again up to 130. 'Then another 2 frames further and set it again on 100%. 3 more frames, scale it up to 127. Then 2 more frames and set it up again on 100. Let's play it now and see how it looks like. I think it looks fine now. I will work now on my first tagline. S from the keyboard to bring up the scale option. Click on the stopwatch to create your first keyframe. However, I will move it 2 frames further. I want this tagline to start right after the logo settles on 100% finally. And unlike the logo, I will get the tagline from depth. I will set the keyframe first on 0%. Then after 4 frames, I will scale it up to 150. I want this tagline to pop out before it settles on 100%. Now 3 more frames and give it the last keyframe on 100%. Select your keyframes, right click, easy ease them, and also activate the motion blur icon on the layer. I want that last keyframe to settle on 100% a little slower, so select your last keyframe and go to the graph editor and slow the end a little bit. Let's try our work so far. Now to my second tagline. Press S from the keyboard to bring up the scale option again. Click on your stopwatch and give it a 0% for your first keyframe. I will move 4 frames further and give it a second keyframe at 150%, just like the first tagline. Then 3 frames further and give it the last keyframe of 100%. Also activate the motion blur box in your layer. Also select your keyframes and easy ease them all. Let's try everything now. I will bring those last 2 keyframes closer. I feel like they are slow. I feel it's better now and the logo frequency is going well with the audio. If you have some issues with the audio and you want to adjust it, you can just move it from here. This way it could start after a few frames. If you click on that tiny arrow in here, then open the audio, also open the waves, you will see where your music starts. So you can adjust your audio according to your animation. Also from audio levels here you can control the volume. Here I just pressed on Ctrl A and selected all my layers inside the timeline and pressed on U from the keyboard to close every option. Try our last animation. That was our first exercise using the scale option. Now to our second exercise. I've already imported my files in here. This is the preview of our exercise. We will be making this swinging animation with our X, Y, and Z rotation option. Then our taglines with the scale option. Double click on our composition to add it to our timeline. Same files. I will add the audio file too. I will start with my logo. To use the X, Y, and Z rotation option, you have to convert your layer to a 3D layer first. So do it from that cube icon here. Activate that box. Once you convert your layer to a 3D layer, you will have your X handle, Y handle, and Z also for the depth. You can also see them now in your transform option here. We need to move the anchor point here. Select your anchor point tool and move your anchor point to the top. I'm gonna move my timeline indicator only 2 frames. I will tell you why in a minute. Highlight the X rotation tool and from here start moving to the right till you can't see your logo. Then click on the stopwatch to create your first keyframe at this point. Even if you don't see your logo, you can still see that line here. This line will be shown in your video before your animation starts. So we need to hide this line. I will set my timeline indicator to the start and get the opacity option. Make a keyframe here and give it a 0%. Then a second frame here with 100%. Now to work more on our swinging animation, move up about 15 frames, then swing your logo back, but this time not all the way back, just before the end for your second keyframe. A few frames farther, then swing it back again. A few frames farther, then swing it to the front again. Then a couple times more till you set it on a 0%. I will select all my keyframes here, right click and easy ease them. Also activate your motion blur icon. Press U from the keyboard to see your active options. This is all a revision from our previous video. I will try my animation now. I need to move my keyframes closer. Now 2 frames farther to start my tagline animation. First tagline, press S to get your scale option. First keyframe here, and I will start scaling up to get it outside the screen. However, before I do so, take a fast look at your anchor point. It's on the letter D. Same way in our first exercise, we need to move the anchor point and place it on an empty area. This way we can get this outside the screen fast. You can move with your mouse this way, or just click in here and add the value you want. I will give it a 7000%. Now we can see it. Move 3 frames further and give it a 70%. Then set it on 100% after 4 frames. Easy ease. Activate your motion blur. I will move those keyframes a bit to go with the music. It's all good now. Now to my second tagline. Get the scale option. Click on the stopwatch to create your first keyframe and try to get this tagline outside of the screen as well. But first, I will get the anchor point tool, shortcut Y, and place my anchor point again on an empty area. Now this tagline is outside the screen also. I will see how many frames in my first tagline. 7 frames, and I will do the same with my second tagline. Then give it the same value, 70%. Same with the last keyframe. Give it 100% value. Select them and easy ease them. Then activate your motion blur too. I will select all my layers and press U to see all my active keyframes only. Then try to play your animation now. I will slow down the last keyframes of my taglines. Select both of them by clicking and holding Ctrl key and move them a bit further. It's better now. Now to our last exercise. I will be using Y rotation option as well as trim path option. This is my file for this exercise, and this is my audio. I need to create a background here. Like we've learned in our previous video, right click, go to new and choose solid. I will name it background. Here is the same size for HD, white color, then hit OK. I will convert my layer here to a 3D layer to get the X, Y, and Z options. Get the anchor point tool, shortcut Y, and place your anchor point this time to the left side. We're gonna be using the Y rotation option. This option is horizontal, unlike the X rotation option was vertical. Go to the transform option, highlight the Y rotation option, move your timeline indicator a couple frames. Then click on the stopwatch to create your first keyframe. Hold and drag to the left side till you can't see your logo. Then move about 15 frames further. Hold and move to the right, but this time not all the way back. Then again a few frames further, but less than the first time. Give it a 0% value. If you put your timeline indicator to the start, you can still see part of your logo. So we need to add a 0% opacity keyframe at the beginning. Then at the same position where you have your first Y keyframe, add another 100 opacity keyframe. This way you don't have to see your logo before it starts. Select your keyframes and easy ease them. As well as activate your motion blur on your layer and the icon itself. Same steps like before. Select all your keyframes and go to the graph editor to give them a cooler speed. If you found your graph editor looks like that, just press on Ctrl and with your mouse scroll down. Now click on it to bring those handles. And I'm gonna slow down the second and the third keyframes. I'm gonna adjust my last keyframe from here. Now to my taglines. I'm gonna use the X rotation option for them. Place your timeline indicator a couple frames after your last keyframe. Convert your layer to a 3D layer. Open the transform option. But before we do anything with the X rotation option, we need to give it a 0% opacity first, so you won't have to see your taglines before this point. Then a couple frames further, give it again a 100% value. Get your anchor point tool and place your anchor point to the top, because we're gonna use the vertical rotation option. Click on the stopwatch and start moving out till you can't see your taglines. And about 10 frames further, swing your taglines but not all the way to the back. A couple of frames further, then swing them to the front again. Then to the last position with 0 value. And as before, activate your motion blur icons. Then select your keyframes, easy ease them. Now I'm gonna just close all my keyframes and start drawing a rectangle to use the trim path option. However, before you draw anything, make sure that you are not selecting any of your layers. Otherwise, you will be making a mask on whatever layer you selected. We'll talk more about this in our mask video. So just click on an empty area, take your shape tool, and draw a rectangle. Here is the fill. I don't need a fill for that. And here is the stroke. You can increase or decrease the size of it. 10 is just fine for me. I will activate my motion blur here too. Then from add here, go to the trim path. And you will get those extra animation options. Start, end, and offset. But before we start with any of them, again get the opacity option and create a 0% keyframe here. This way you won't see this border till this point of the video. A couple frames after and create another 100% keyframe. Without moving your timeline indicator, go to the start option and create your first keyframe here and give it 100%. About 10 frames further, give it another 0% keyframe. Select your keyframes, easy ease them. Then to the graph editor. Select your last point, bring it closer to slow it down at the end. A few frames farther, I will add another keyframe, but this time from the end option and give it a 0%. A little farther, create your second keyframe with a 100% value to reverse your trim path animation. Select your keyframes, easy ease them. Go to the graph editor to give it a nice speed. I will edit my other keyframes as well. Now try your animation. I will move my keyframes farther a little bit. Now we are all done. That was our video today. 3 exercises on animation and keyframes using scale, opacity, X, Y, and Z rotation, as well as trim path option. I will be leaving those original files with the audio I've used in my tutorial today in the link of the description below, in case if you want to try same animation with the same audio. In our next video, we'll be talking more about Alpha, what is it, and how to use it. Stay tuned, thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye bye.